Last week, someone attempted to take the life of Donald Trump. I was not going to cover this story because there's been so much coverage, but then I saw this headline from CNN. Secret Service rushes Trump off the stage after he falls at rally. Are you kidding me? Someone just tried to kill him. The mainstream media is not telling you what's going on. So we're going to talk about what really happened to Donald Trump. I want to start with this image. Not many people are showing this angle. Do you see that white roof in the background? That is where the shooter was. He was laying down on that roof. That's how close he was. That's why so many people are angry at the Secret Service right now. Because the roof was right there. It was an obvious security risk. How was no one watching that roof? It also makes you realize how evil this shooter was. There were stands of people behind Trump. The shooter was shooting directly into a crowd of people. Anyone who has used a gun before knows that bullets go through people. So even if the shooter hit Trump, the bullet could have gone through Trump and still hit the spectators behind him. This shooter knew that no matter what happened, innocent people were going to die. He wanted to kill Trump so badly, he shot into a group of innocent people, knowing he was going to kill some of them. That's incredibly evil. Not only did the shooter know that, if he had help from anyone else, those other people knew they were killing innocent people as well. Let's look at the innocent person who died. His name was Corey Comparatore. He was the former fire chief of Buffalo Township. He died throwing his own body over his wife and daughter to protect them. He was shot instead. Two other people in the crowd were injured. Here's video from the funeral of Corey Comparatore. They are taking his coffin to his final resting spot in the back of a fire truck. Let's look at the iconic photo. Here we see Trump after he survived the shooting with his fist raised in the air. Does anyone notice anything strange about this photo? What is this person doing? This woman is hunkering down in front of Trump. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Aren't Secret Service agents supposed to be throwing themselves in front of politicians to protect them from bullets? Why is she cowering? She's not protecting anything. Trump is completely vulnerable to another shot. Just to make this point, I want to show you video footage of the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan. You can see the Secret Service agents leap into action and throw themselves in front of the president. No bullets are going to get past them. Now let's go back to the photo. I'm not sure this woman is even big enough to block a bullet. Trump is a very tall man. Wikipedia lists him as 6 foot 3 inches. How is this frail woman supposed to protect a 6 foot 3 inch tall man? I'm going to say something that will probably get me canceled, but I am beyond caring at this point. Women should not be hired as Secret Service agents. There, I said it. I think we should be honest with ourselves as a society and say that there are some jobs where we need to find the biggest, manliest men to hire for those jobs. Protecting the president is one of those jobs. Here's another photo. Here is another woman, Secret Service agent, cowering behind the stage. Isn't her job to be throwing herself in front of the president? What is she doing? Here is more video of the women Secret Service agents. They're acting flustered. They cannot holster their weapons. They're acting emotional. And I have to also say that they look out of shape. Who hired these people? And are we really expecting these people to protect anybody? I want to know the name of the person who decided that they were going to protect Donald Trump with a bunch of fat women. It turns out that the Secret Service is also being run by women. Director Kimberly Cheadle and COO Cynthia Schoberg Radway. What? Am I going crazy? Whatever happened to getting the biggest, manliest men for these jobs? When you look at the director's bio, you see that she was previously the director in global security at PepsiCo, a snack and drink company. I think Elon Musk said it best when he tweeted, "So before being in charge of protecting the president, she was guarding bags of Cheetos. Then, Director Cheetos. Then, Director Cheetos needs to be fired immediately. What an idiot." Criticism of Director Cheadle has intensified as she has refused to accept any responsibility for what happened. To show you how absurd this was, we were days away from the start of the Republican National Convention. Here's the head of the Secret Service for the event.
But did it change within the last, has any change been made in the last 24 hours?
We're not anticipating any changes to our operational security plans for this event.
They're going to make no changes? Excuse me. The Secret Service just had their worst incident in the entire history of the Secret Service, and they don't think there is anything they can do to improve. Oh, and why is the person in charge another frail woman? I'm beginning to see a pattern here. Director Cheadle tried to give excuses for the incident, claiming that they didn't put agents on that roof because the slope was too steep.
Should that roof have been secure, period?
That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof. And so, the decision was made to secure the building from inside.
Just for context, here's a photo of the roof. Does that look too steep to you? Would you fall off if you walked around up there? Here's the roof where the snipers were actually stationed. It's actually steeper than the other roof. Here are Secret Service agents on the sloped roof after the shooter was already killed. I don't know. Someone better get these agents a safety harness because they might fall off that super steep roof. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic because Director Cheadle is obviously lying. There is no way that the reason they did not put anyone on that roof was because it was too steep. So if that was not the reason, what was the reason? And why is the director lying about it? I want to emphasize this point. Donald Trump was shot, and the director of the Secret Service is lying to us about what happened. She's lying to us. It gets even worse when you realize that the Secret Service knew about the shooter for a long time before shots were even fired.
The shooter was actually identified as a potential person of suspicion. Units started responding to seek that individual out. Unfortunately, with the rapid succession of how things unfolded, by the time that individual was eventually located, they were on the rooftop and were able to fire off at the former president.
She claims they identified him and lost track of him. Why didn't they pull Donald Trump off stage if they knew there was an unknown threat in the audience? And what was this rapid succession of events? It turns out the shooter was identified when he first arrived at 3 p.m., 3 hours before the shooting. He was stopped at the screening area when he tried to get past the metal detectors with a rangefinder used by snipers to measure the distance to their target. Law enforcement identified him as a threat, told Secret Service, and then Secret Service lost track of him. Then, 40 minutes before the shooting, law enforcement took another photo of the shooter looking suspicious as he scouted the area. Law enforcement sent the photo to the Secret Service. The Secret Service once again lost track of him. Then 6 minutes before the shooting, people in the crowd pointed out the shooter crawling on the roof with a gun and notified the police.
We noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle. We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on. We're like, hey, right here on the roof. We can see him from right here. We see him. He's crawling. And Next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for 2-3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
So you're certain that the shots came from that guy on the roof?
100%. 100%.
And he was up there for a couple of minutes?
He was up there.
You saw him up there for a couple of minutes?
Absolutely. At least 3 to 4 minutes.
And you were telling police and the Secret Service?
We were telling the police. We were pointing at him for the Secret Service, who were looking at us from the top of the barn. They were looking at us the whole time when we were standing by that tree.
We have footage of the shooter crawling on the roof. There's no way the Secret Service did not see this person in plain sight.
Yeah, look, there he is.
Because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people. Criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here.
Right on the roof.
It's much tougher than it happens.
You went right on the roof.
An officer crawled up on the roof to confirm. The shooter pointed his weapon at the officer, who dropped off the roof. The police radioed everyone, saying the suspect had a gun.
What did your officers do?
So our officers in the area started to converge on the building. My understanding is they did a full perimeter walk of the building. Weren't able to see up on the roof. 2 of the officers went to what appeared to be the lowest point from ground to roof. One of the officers actually boosted the second officer up high enough for him to grab hold of the roof. When he was able to pull his head up over the roof, he did in fact see an individual on the roof with a weapon.
He saw the shooter?
He did.
And what did the shooter do?
Turned towards him, had the barrel of his weapon pointed at the officer.
At that point, the officer's hanging on to the side of the roof?
Yes.
Unable to pull a gun out?
Unable to
defend himself? Unable to reach his radio?
Any of that, yeah. Strictly defensive movement for him to lower his head, duck, lost his own grip, right? Fell approximately 8 feet to the ground.
That's a steep drop.
It's a good drop, yes.
Did he get hurt?
He did.
In that moment, did they realize there's a threat right now to the former president?
They did. So both the boosting officer and the officer that fell were both on the radio, indicating that there was an individual on the roof that did in fact have a weapon.
Who did they radio?
So there was a blanket tactical channel being used.
Everyone heard it.
Everyone who was on that tactical channel heard it, yes.
It also appears that the Secret Service snipers already had the shooter in their sights before the shooting. In the timeline the FBI reported to the Senate, the Secret Service spotted the shooter on the roof at 5:52 p.m. That was 10 minutes before Trump even went on stage. The Secret Service were looking at a person holding a gun pointed at Trump, and they did nothing. The Secret Service sent Trump out to give a speech, knowing there was a threat in the crowd. Then someone analyzed this video footage. This is the actual live stream footage from the event. If you zoom in on the water tower in the background, you can clearly see a second shooter. Donald Trump dodged bullets not only from 1, but 2 shooters. Who was the second person, and why has the FBI said nothing about him? The FBI determined that this was a lone shooter before they even completed their investigation. Why would they decide it was a lone shooter when we can all see with our own eyes that there was a second shooter? Audio analysis also tells us that there were multiple shooters. Shots were fired into the crowd from 2 different weapons, and then a third weapon is what the Secret Service used to kill the shooter.
First up, we just have an absolutely different sound between the first 3. There's no echo. It's much further away. It's more muffled. It's just not in the same place at all. But these next ones, very different sound, totally different weapons. Okay, full stop. We have 2 separate weapons. Plus, we have no echoes coming off of the first 3, and then we do have echoes coming off of the next set.
What this sounds like is that 8 shots were fired into the crowd before the Secret Service fired back. If the Secret Service knew the shooter was out there, why did they allow 8 shots to go off before they returned fire? So the whole timeline of the incident is 3 hours. The Secret Service knew about the threat for 3 hours. When Director Cheadle says that there was a rapid succession of events, What is she talking about? They knew about the threat for 3 hours and did nothing. Once again, she is lying. So everything I've said up to this point is facts. You can see these facts with your own eyes. The question being asked now all over the internet was whether the shooter had help. Was this assassination attempt planned by someone within the Secret Service? Did someone in the Secret Service try to kill the same person they were supposed to protect? And is the Secret Service responsible for the murder of an innocent man in the stands? We're supposed to believe that this 20-year-old snuck past security with a rifle, knew exactly what building to go to, the building just happened to be unprotected, the Secret Service knew about the threat in advance and did nothing to stop it, and they did nothing to pull Trump out of harm's way. That's just a little too unbelievable. Could the Secret Service be corrupt? Let's take a step back. We already know the answer to that question. We already have proof the Secret Service is corrupt. Do you remember when cocaine was found in the White House? The Secret Service claims they cannot figure out whose cocaine it was. This is one of the most secure buildings in the world with cameras everywhere, and the Secret Service cannot figure it out. No one believes that. Who wants to bet it was Joe Biden's cocaine? And the Secret Service is covering it up. When that happened, we knew the Secret Service was corrupt. They were making decisions for political reasons. It's our fault for not holding them accountable back then. We didn't think ahead that this corrupt organization was responsible for protecting Donald Trump. We also know that Joe Biden has been using the Secret Service against his political opponents. This has been a news story for some time. Joe Biden has denied Robert Kennedy Jr. any Secret Service protection, and he's only given him a security detail after this shooting. Joe Biden has also refused Donald Trump's requests for additional security. I don't remember any past president ever doing this. Donald Trump did not refuse Joe Biden the Secret Service protection he needed when they ran in 2020. It is disgusting that Joe Biden has repeatedly diverted Secret Service protection away from his political opponents. We also know that the Secret Service reports directly to Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. We already know that he is incredibly corrupt. He is responsible for letting in millions of illegal immigrants and lying about it when he testifies in front of Congress. Not only that, on Friday, Congress released a letter explaining that a whistleblower had come forward testifying that the majority of Secret Service agents for that day had been replaced by officers of a different division within the Department of Homeland Security called Homeland Security Investigations, or HSI. This is a secret police force that reports directly to Alejandro Mayorkas. Why would all these Secret Service agents be replaced for this one specific day by the secret police of Alejandro Mayorkas? If HSI sounds familiar to you, it's because I have talked about it before. We know of at least 19 confidential human sources from HSI that were operating at the Capitol during the protests on January 6. Why was this same division taking over the Secret Service detail at Donald Trump's rally? Now, Joe Biden says he's going to have an investigation into what happened. Guess who's doing the investigation? Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI. The same FBI that is trying to put Donald Trump in prison. So all these corrupt people are going to investigate themselves. I wonder how that's going to turn out. Everything we have heard from this investigation in the last week has seemed very strange. For starters, the FBI kept saying that they could not get in to the shooter's phone. They could not tell us anything about him or who he talked to. Are you kidding me? We just saw the FBI hack into every single January 6th prisoner's phone like it was no problem. But for some reason, this one phone, they cannot figure out. Here is something else. This is a $2 billion NSA data center in Utah that spies on all our cell phone data. This is from their website telling us they do this. Now, I don't know how this is legal, that the government can spy on all of us, but they do. So you are telling me that the NSA has cell phone data for everyone in the US except for this one 20-year-old shooter. Something doesn't add up. Now, the FBI has finally said that they have unlocked the shooter's phone, but they have found nothing on it. They have determined that this was a lone shooter and he was in no way working with anyone from the government. Isn't that convenient? It's also strange that this person seems to have no social media accounts at all. When was the last 20-year-old you met who did not have any social media accounts? It's like his whole existence has been scrubbed from the internet. Here's another photo of an FBI agent hosing down the roof of the building. Does anyone else find it strange that the FBI is washing away the evidence days after the shooting? That agent better be careful, because he might slip on that steep roof. All of this is leading people to wonder whether the government itself was involved in the attempt to assassinate Donald Trump. This should not be a surprise. John F. Kennedy was assassinated, and people speculate that the CIA was involved. In fact, we have good evidence for this because Joe Biden has refused to turn over the remaining government documents regarding the John F. Kennedy assassination. Listen to this. 30 years ago, Congress passed a law that said the U.S. government had to turn over the records of the assassination in 30 years. The deadline was 2 years ago. Joe Biden issued an executive order deciding that he was going to keep 4,684 documents a secret. Joe Biden is working with the CIA. Why would he do this unless they were covering something up? RFK Jr. is currently running for president. Let me play for you what he said when he interviewed with Tucker Carlson. He was talking about a dinner he had with Mike Pompeo. Mike Pompeo was talking about his time as the director of the CIA under Trump.
He said to me before dinner, I had a moment with him, and he said to me, when I was at the CIA, I did not do what I should have done to fix that agency. And he said, and he was expressing regret. And he said, and then he turned to me and looked me dead in the eye, and he said, the entire upper echelon of that agency is made up of individuals who do not believe in the democratic institutions of the United States of America. That's a quote.
Let me just repeat that. The entire upper echelon of that agency is made up of individuals who do not believe in the democratic institutions of the United States of America. This is pretty shocking testimony that the CIA is corrupt. We already know that Joe Biden is working with the CIA because he refused to release the remaining files on the John F. Kennedy assassination. What is also strange is that people have uncovered that a hedge fund named Austin Private Wealth shorted an enormous amount of stock in Truth Social and Rumble right before the assassination attempt. They shorted 12 million shares of Truth Social and 34 million shares of Rumble. This is extremely unusual behavior. If the assassination attempt had been successful, these stocks would have plummeted in value, and this hedge fund would have made billions. How did these investors on Wall Street just happen to know in advance that something terrible was about to happen to Donald Trump? Why isn't anyone investigating these investors? The hedge fund has released a statement claiming that the purchase was a clerical error, and they have amended their filing. Seems pretty suspicious to me. The other reason we know that Joe Biden is corrupt is because he will not fire the Secret Service director. Think about it. If Joe Biden truly wasn't involved, he would be as horrified as the rest of us about an assassination attempt on Trump. He should want to fire her. Isn't he concerned about his own safety? But instead, he's protecting her. Why? Does she have dirt on Joe Biden? Will she tell everyone how Joe Biden was involved in reducing his political opponent's security? Can she not be fired because she will tell everyone whose cocaine was in the White House? The fact that Joe Biden is protecting her is evidence that he is involved. If he wants to prove that he's not involved, he needs to fire her today. I'm going to say what no one else is saying, but what everyone is thinking. In my opinion, Joe Biden tried to have his political opponent killed. Now, we cannot say that for certain until there's a trial, but that's my opinion based on the evidence we have seen so far. Does anyone watch murder mysteries? What's the first thing you do if you're trying to solve a murder? You ask, who has a motive? In this situation, who has the biggest motive to kill Donald Trump? In my opinion, it's Joe Biden. He had a disastrous debate. His own party is trying to replace him. He's under an impeachment inquiry, which is exposing his enormous crimes. Think about this. The whole Joe Biden corruption enterprise only works if Joe Biden is in political office. If he loses the presidency, he can't bribe anyone anymore. Not only can Joe Biden no longer make any money, no one around him can make any more money. Hunter Biden, Jill Biden, Joe's brother, none of them have any way to make a living. They are all highly motivated to remain in power. So we have a motive. But on top of that, Joe Biden is acting extremely guilty. This is all allegedly, but in my opinion, they were all in on it. Joe Biden, Alejandro Mayorkas, the CIA, the Secret Service, and the FBI. They're all working together to take out Trump. That's what they've been doing this whole time. These are the same people who raided Mar-a-Lago with armed guards. That's the kind of thing you see in a banana republic. These are the same people who are trying to throw Donald Trump in prison in kangaroo courts. That's the same kind of thing you see in a banana republic. And now someone tried to assassinate Trump. That's the kind of thing you see in a banana republic. This was just the next step in the same thing we've all been watching for the last 2 years. These people have been working together to take out Trump in any way possible and have been breaking countless laws along the way. They are corrupt, and it's time that someone called them out on it. Here's what's happening right now. Congress called a hearing on Monday and demanded that the director of the Secret Service come to testify. She initially agreed, but then Alejandro Mayorkas stepped in and said she's not going to testify and that no more documents would be shared with Congress. Is Alejandro Mayorkas attempting to stop the testimony because he doesn't want anyone to know that he replaced Secret Service agents with his own secret police force from HSI? Congress then sent a subpoena to the director, and now the public hearing is back on for Monday. I will be interested to hear what she has to say under oath. I hope the people in Congress ask her some of the questions I have raised today. In my opinion, Joe Biden should be charged and investigated for attempted murder of Donald Trump, the actual murder of the innocent man in the stands, and treason against the American people. Let me be clear, I'm not calling for any retaliation or violence. What I'm calling for is an investigation, a real investigation, not the corrupt FBI or Secret Service investigating themselves. It looks like there are traitors within the government. We need to figure out who they are and bring them to justice. Congress has the ability to set up an independent special counsel. That person would then be able to investigate Joe Biden for murder. Joe Biden is the person who is acting guilty. Let me repeat again the list of things that Joe Biden needs to do immediately to show he is not involved. Release all remaining 4,684 documents related to the JFK assassination. Release the name of the person who left the cocaine in the White House. Fire the director of the Secret Service. These are all really simple things that should be no big deal for Joe Biden to do. The fact that he will not do them is evidence that he is involved, and they are all protecting each other. Joe Biden is the one who is acting guilty. Americans are smart. We want a leader that represents the best in ourselves. We want a leader that will stand up and fight for the people of this country. It's impossible to watch the video of the shooting and not think that God intervened. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't believe in religion. Watch that video because you just saw a miracle. I want to show you two images that show how close Trump came to death. He turned his head at the exact right moment and the bullet flew past his head. It was an inch away from ending his life. 1 inch could have changed the course of human history. I don't know what you think, but I believe there are moments when God intervenes. I want to show you something. Right before Trump came onto the stage, the American flag at the rally got tangled up. It looks a lot like an angel. I've never seen a flag do this before. Let me show you something else. This is video of someone named Brandon Biggs. This is from 4 months ago when he gave a Christian prophecy.
And I saw Trump rising up, and then I saw an attempt on his life. This bullet flew by his ear, and it came so close to his head that it busted his eardrum. And I saw he fell to his knees during this time frame, and he started worshiping the Lord. He got radically born again during this time frame. I'm talking, people say he's saved now, but he becomes really on fire for Jesus, for what I saw coming. And then I saw people interceding when I saw him winning the presidency through great. The Lord showed me it would go clear into the summer. Great persecution would come on him through the judges and through the law and all these people trying to sue him and all this stuff. But there would be a stop to it, and things would start to break free come toward the fall. And then I saw him winning the election through the Patriots coming out and voting.
That is wild. How did he know what was going to happen 4 months ago? Is it possible that something greater is going on here? Whatever happened, by the grace of God, Donald Trump is alive. I pray for his safety as we continue to Election Day. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of the corruption in our government. I've had it, and I'm not going to sit by anymore. Next week, Wolves in Finance is coming to Washington, D.C. If you're on the East Coast and you would like to meet up, I will be attending the January 6th Vigil in Washington, D.C. on Saturday, July 27th and Sunday, July 28th. You know who else will be there? Brandon Fellows. I covered his story a few weeks ago. I have since spoken with him on the phone, and I'm coming to D.C. to check to make sure he's doing all right. If you want to meet up, they hold the vigil every night outside the D.C. jail from 7:30 p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. At 9 p.m., the prisoners inside the jail sing the Star-Spangled Banner. This vigil is trying to expose the horrible injustices of the political prisoners in this country. If you're interested, go to Google Maps and type in DC Jail. It will show you a building next to a cemetery. The vigil is on E Street between the building and the cemetery. I will be there both days from 7:30 to 9 o'clock. If you have any questions, you can always email me through my website, wolvesinfinance.com. Now I want to hear from you. Please leave a comment if I left anything out important about what happened to Donald Trump. I want to know about it in the comments down below. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you want to support the channel, consider signing up for a monthly membership on my website, wolvesinfinance.com. For $6 a month, your support helps me to continue to put out these videos. I'm Zach from Wolves in Finance. Thank you for watching.